welcome everybody to our workshop today for September 19th, 2024. It is about 2:35. We'll just dive right in with public comments. Do we have anybody today? Okay. And we'll move on to item number 2, which is to discuss as maybe needed any regular meeting agenda items for tonight's meeting. Council, anything? Nothing? I think we have one staff.
Yeah. And while we're getting that up to here on, the quick note, discussion from Ms. Lukey regarding our building permit process. Not certain if she's still planning on speaking tonight or not. We have, I think our planning staff met with her as recent as last week. She was right on the tip of having her building back being occupiable.
Okay.
I think the last I heard was there was one more electrical inspection, so she's been cleared to get her power turned back on. As soon as her electric provider turns it on, we can go back, do a final electrical inspection, and she'll be ready to go. But a note just on this topic on the building as a whole, it's one suite out of a larger suite of addresses. Staff has been working very diligently with a contractor and owner for those facilities since early July,
Okay.
and trying to organize the chaos of getting all of those tenants back on their feet.
Has there been any special circumstances or extenuating circumstances? But before she gets up there and starts yelling at people, what's been going on?
Yeah, so there was a lot of back and forth early on about the overall scope of what was done.
Okay.
So the buildings we're talking about here, it's Honeysuckle, 7349 Honeysuckle, which I think LaRive and that area. So, some of those buildings, the roof was removed from portions of the building. Some portions of the building had kind of minimal water intrusion and some damage like that. Some of it is just replacing sheetrock, and other portions of it are significant structural repairs to the facility. So when it initially came in, it was just one permit that was a roof permit, more or less.
Okay.
So it took a fair amount of time. We originally got that permit application on the 9th. It went into permit review after some back and forth on the scope on the 18th of July. And then a lot of the time since then has been spent on trying to nail down exactly what the plan is for reconstruction. Because it's easy to say we're just going to build back what was there, but then from a permitting and documentation standpoint, we need to make sure that whatever is going to be built back is, either referencing back to the original plan from when that facility was built, or if there's any change, there's a new plan for it. So that was a lot of the holdup was that. Plus, we had a GC that had pulled a permit and subs that had pulled kind of some additional permits on the side, and trying to merge all that into one parent permit with the ability to give COs for each suite as it becomes occupiable. Took a fair amount of effort. So we started in July. We met on site with them after some back and forth early August to say, hey, this clearly we're not speaking the same language. Identified what needed to happen there. A good chunk of August was spent trying to make sure that all the licensed subcontractors were added to the permit. Things like plumbers and electricians have to be attached to the permit because it references their license. All along during that time period, we didn't stop them in construction. They got to continue construction during that time. We did some inspections on paper and kept notes on paper outside of the system, because the system wasn't able to catch up yet, since all of the trails weren't kind of lined out. But those inspections continued outside of our system, and then now we're at a point where all of that stuff has been cleared up in the system, and we're starting to back input the inspections that occurred, trying to keep them on track as best we can.
Were there any and the reason why I'm asking this question is because I was also kept up to speed by a friend of hers Were there any holes in the system, in our system, that could have made the process better? Or was it just so much, 11 different suites, multiple
Right.
subs, multiple permits, multiple everything, and it just took that long to manage?
I think it's more the latter. I mean, there's always the occasion when you look back in hindsight, you can say, oh, if this had happened, then all of this would have been a little bit easier. And there's kind of onesie twosie things that you say, if these things would have happened in the front end, then this would have all run a lot smoother. But I don't see something where you can squarely say it was a contractor issue, it was an owner issue, it was a city issue, it was system issue. The bulk of it was the challenge of trying to so rapidly get under construction and get wrapped up that many different suites and that many different buildings. We're talking just this one project, 4 different buildings plus many suites in each building. And the extent of damage ranged from tear some sheetrock out and replace it to the roof came off and we need to reevaluate structurally what's there and make sure that it gets put back properly.
But construction was never stopped through all the process. They have permission to move forward.
Right.
Does she have insurance that covers X number of months to do business when something like this happens? I'm wondering if that's why she's
I would
anxious
imagine,
because that time is running out and.
I would imagine that probably drives some of the anxiety with it, but I don't know for sure. I know that Jenna did a lot of legwork trying to make sure that that she got what she needed, and Brian Chandler's met with her just in the last 2 weeks several times. He's been texting and helping her through the process of getting with her electric provider the last 2 days, and
We met with her last Friday, was the last time we met with her, and she said that, the building owner had graciously waived the rent or paid the rent fee for the whole time they've been in business, that they chose to continue to pay their employees, which was what the issue was, and they were just at a point now where they could not pay their employees anymore without their business being opened back up. So she just really, it was never really anything. Of course, she's just the renter, she's not the contractor, so she's calling the city, but she's not in contact with the subcontractor or the contractor. And they're the ones pulling the permits. And so she was really just at the point where, like, I need a for sure day that we're gonna get back open and be able to come back in, because my employees are at the point now where they're gonna have to stop on it because we cannot afford to do it. So that's where it was at Friday. What David said, we had told her that your electrical sub had been added and the inspection was Tuesday,
right.
and when they were just waiting on the mechanical, and then she was gonna get issued her CO, so that was last week.
It's easy to think I would assume when you're going through something like that, you're the only one, right? And everything matters. And, exponentially whenever, 4 buildings, multiple suites, different scopes of work.
So she has her business and
Just a
her
lot.
people
Right.
and
Right.
their
And her money.
insurance. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no, I get it.
scary.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
So that was the gist of that, just to say that we are committed to continue working and get her back in business as quick as we can.
Okay, well, we'll listen to whatever she has
Look
to
forward to
say.
hearing what she has to say tonight.
Okay, well, thank you for the update on that. Anything else?
I think Kelly has some updates on our zoning cases, just kind of a broad overview to make sure that we have a minute or two to talk if there's anything you see before. Maybe not.
All right, so thank y'all for giving me a few minutes in the work session. So tonight on our consent agenda, we have 1 rezoning and an annexation. And then on the regular agenda, we have 4 rezoning cases, an amendment for our comp plan, and then 1 annexation. So those consent agenda items are M and N, and those are for the early childhood Head Start program that you all heard last time, and there's been no changes or updates to that case. And then also the annexation case, second and final reading for that, also no changes or updates. And that's the annexation to bring in additional phases for Cotton Bottom. So
So were these, refresh me, were these particularly contentious issues or just giving us an update? So we're just moving
Yeah.
through?
Probably a precursor to this. One of the things that we've talked about recently, zoning cases oftentimes sneak up on us.
Yeah.
So I'd ask our planning team to throw together a quick work session preview so that we can at least know what's there. And if somebody says, oh yeah, I got a bunch of phone calls about that. Let's
Okay.
talk.
I'm with
This will give us a good opportunity to
All
do
right.
so.
Yeah,
I think this is a great idea to have a brief preview.
So looking at our regular agenda, we have item 5, that is a CUP for the RV park, out on the loop. And then also item number 6 is a PD ag, also with a site plan and a CUP for the mobile home park. And that's the expansion of the, Bluebonnet Estates. And so I think both of those are, maybe looking at a little bit further discussion tonight with you all on some of those conditions.
We'll talk a little bit more about those two specifically as we get into item number 3 in the work session.
okay.
Yep.
Can you just hold on one second? I thought we were gonna ask for, hold off on this.
Well, let's go through item number 3 on the work
Okay,
session.
sorry.
And then we'll discuss.
All right,
Yeah, more to come on that one. There's actually another item on the work session that'll allow us to go into that one a little bit further on both of those topics.
okay, good, thank you.
Item number 7, so that's also another CUP. This one's for the auto storage. Similar, you all have heard from this applicant before, they just have a new location, so.
So that was the guy on Kegley, right?
Right.
Correct, yep, so exact same thing, new location.
But
So
not a change, just an additional, or is it just a total change?
it's the same concept, it's just they chose a new location, so.
Okay, so
it's
it is
still
a
required.
totally new location, the other one is gone.
Correct. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
that was my confusion. Thank you.
Yep, so
Now,
they
we,
picked a new location.
So the last time, whenever they were talking about going to the old FedEx building,
Mhm.
and we approved it on first reading, probably showed up on the consent. So that CUP was approved for the old FedEx building.
Correct,
Since they're not going to use it for that CUP goes away.
Correct.
Right, for,
Mhm.
that way the next person is not saddled with,
right, because it's tied to a site
to the
plan
side, yeah. Yeah.
specific, right?
Unless somebody wanted to do the exact same thing, I guess they could, but that's.
Yeah, if they wanted to do exactly what that was approved, then they could, but that's why we're doing it for this new location, just they're moving to a new building. And then item number 8 is that amendment for our comp plan. Again, this is the first reading with public hearing, so that's basically changing or revising the plan from a development category of business park over to residential and neighborhood services. So this was triggered by the other cases on the agenda that we'll cover here in a second, but really just making sure, when we do evaluations on our zoning, we want to look at all of our master plans and make sure that we're in alignment, and just seeing some of the development that has come into this portion of our ETJ made us realize that, we're right at the 5 years on the comp plan anyways, if we're due for an internal review of that. So this just is kind of leading the way on one of those changes we might see in the future. Item number 9 is the annexation case. So this is the 4170 Cedar Creek Road. This one is some acreage that's proposed for some residential development. Again, with that amendment to our plan, seeing that there has been other residential development in the area, this is in alignment with that. And then item number 10 is also tied to that. So usually you might not see these all stacked together on one agenda, but I feel that the applicant's wanting to best understand the direction for the zoning before really that annexation might be contingent upon, or the request for the annexation is really contingent upon the feeling for the zoning. So again, looking at that residential use. So currently this area is in the ETJ, and anything can be built out there. We wouldn't have building permits or any review on that. But if annexation happens for most of this tract, then it would automatically be zoned ag per rules and regulations and code. And then this recommendation is to just immediately go to the 2-family zoning. And then Kathy might have a little bit of language. This isn't the specific language, but this is some language that came from the planning and zoning. So on item number 10, Mayor, you'll see that it has an extra bit of information on there about the comp plan, but we pulled that out to have its own item.
Okay.
So that's why you'll see that on it's covered by item number 8. So item number 10 will be revised just a little bit when we get to that to make recommendations.
And the acreage is also a little bit less.
Right.
So the council will have language correcting anything as far as acreage, or of course, this one also is going to require supermajority. Right?
Correct.
Easy turning down.
Oh, okay.
And then just kind of a clarification, if your desire is to support the zoning change, then it makes sense that you would also support that comp plan land use change, because those two kind of go hand in hand. It would be a little bit counterproductive to support the land use change and then
They did that.
not support the zoning change.
No, the P and Z recommended disapproval for the zoning,
Yeah.
but they did recommend approval for the comp
So they
plan.
did what he's saying.
No, he's saying the comp plan, so, the comp plan, item number 8. So that one, by revising our comp plan is allowing us to, well, it's not allowing us, it's just making it that when we look at the zoning, it does align with our master plans, our comp
But
plan.
did the P and Z not approve that and not approve the the zoning? They approved the comp plan, but not the zoning.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily illogical, because the comp plan, they could approve the comp plan and then say no to this particular zoning, but 2 years from now, another zoning comes in that would affect, that comp plan would cover, and they would approve that, or even next week.
And the comp plan's for a larger area. It doesn't just
Yes,
impact this
that's
one
my
property.
point.
It's a recommendation for a larger area that makes sense to change from that business park over to a residential and neighborhood services. So it's not just specific to this case, it's specific to that general area. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you'll have on these. Otherwise, I know we have probably some discussion on the item for the UDC update, but. other than that- All right, thank y'all.
Thank
Kelsey,
you.
anything for detective support step one?
No, but I like this. This is-
Yeah, I don't think that we have some.
Yeah, I like that.
Something that they would like to send, is that possible?
Well, if so, we'll catch them when we get to item 3.
Okay.
Is that appropriate, Kathy?
If you wish to review, requires your choice.
That good? All right, let's move on to Ms. Caraway and receive City's Temple Board and Commission annual report.
Here we are again for the fall 2024 Boards and Commissions report. So today, welcome to the Boards and Commissions Diner, where we're serving up a pile of community volunteers with a side of recommendations. So just as an overview, your Boards and Commissions policy requires that every board submit an annual report to the council. That's what's in front of you. It includes a cover letter, an activity summary for the past year, work plans and goals, recommendations, as well as an attendance report and any other information. So what I'll go over today in the presentation is just a very short and brief version of what you have in front of you. Another quick reminder, we do 2 reports a year, depending on when appointments are made for April or October. So the following boards appoint members annually in October. So these will be the reports you have in front of you. That's the Airport Advisory Board, the Animal Services Advisory Board, the Citizens Police Advisory Board, the Civil Service Advisory Board, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I forgot the Emergency Services, but they're also in there. Here's just some quick stats. For these particular boards, there are 44 members who met 89 times. Planning and Zoning always wins out with having the most meetings conducted. They met 46 times over the last year. Almost as much as council. Yeah. So getting into each board, the Airport Advisory Board recommended to City Council various grants as well as airport hangar leases. The board received presentations from FBO Flight Tracking Software, the hangar market feasibility study, which council also received in a work session, as well as results from the Airfest and various updates on the storm impact to the airport. Some responses to their work plan really just has to do with the standards of the airport, as well as rates and fees and leases. The board will just continue on the path they're on to review and recommend rates and various policies to City Council. And their recommendations is to continue with the hangar leases, make recommendations for future land use as well as grants, construction projects, and the annual air show. Next is the Animal Services Advisory Board. At each meeting, they receive reports from the veterinarian, the Greater Temple Belton Foundation for Animal Care, and monthly stats from our animal services shelter. Other reports and recommendations that they went over this past year, they had a lot to do with looking at the redesign of the animal shelter, which opened this last year, as well as amendments to the animal code and also some increases for the spay and neuter vouchers. Their future work plan is to continue discussion of having an in-facility veterinarian, whether that be part-time or full-time. The Citizens Police Advisory Commission, every month they receive a summary report on the various statistics of the police department. They also receive presentations from Nancy on the Arbor of Hope and mental health updates, as well as overviews from the various divisions in the police department, demographic study, and of course the storm response, which you'll see that storm on a lot of the different boards and commissions this past year. Their response to the work plan is to serve, produce, study, institute, and review all of their things. Their recommendation is to have a discussion to maybe create an event, which is coffee with a CPAC member, similar to coffee with a cop, as well as look over future legislative items, perhaps have a speaker from the FBI Academy or the Southern Police Institute, continue discussing and recommending for school safety, and continue receiving those different division reports.
Would that speaker be just for the CPAC board?
Well, let's ask Sean Reynolds.
They know.
Yes, but we can make other arrangements. We've got multiple.
Just a question.
Multiple staff members, and so either one of those, Academy or Southern.
All right, next is Civil Service Commission. You'll see their summary of activities. They had 13 police entrance exams, 1 fire entrance exam, 5 police promotional exams, 3 fire promotional exams, 2 corporal, 1 sergeant, 1 lieutenant, appeal hearings, and 1 fire drive, 1 captain, 1 battalion chief exam appeal hearings. And over there, you'll see their response to the various work plans and their recommendations for future goals, which is just to continue to review and adopt any updates to the civil service local rules, as well as rules on police and fire appeals, and continue to receive civil service training in regard to various rules and regulations that govern. Your Emergency Services Advisory Board, they too, at each of their meetings, receive monthly reports having to do with the fire department and emergency management. They also participated in various station and apparatus tours. This group attended many events, including Central Station Fire Safety Day, the fire department's Christmas celebration, push-in ceremony for one of the new engines, and the junior fire cadet graduation. They also received various presentations from Temple EMS, Bell County Communication Center, big with the solar eclipse event we had, and the fire marshal office also gave a presentation. You'll see some pictures over here of some swearing in of camp, pushing in ceremony, and their recommendations are just to continue in recommending various things to the council and supporting the fire department and attending their various events. And then last, we have Planning and Zoning Commission. You can see that Planning and Zoning Commission were very busy in their 40-something meetings. They reviewed 52 subdivision plats. Staff reviewed 17 amending plats that did not go to P&Z, 42 zoning cases, 2 sets of amendments, 3 neighborhood plans, 7 annexations, 2 appeals, which equals over 100 cases, and staff spent over 200 hours in pre-development meetings. They received presentations from the TRC. They received presentations about water and wastewater improvements, board attendance policy, leadership academy, neighborhood planning overview, and annexation updates, as well as a lot of preliminary and final plats and a rezoning. Their responses to the strategic plan was providing support for the 3 neighborhood plans and preliminary reports. Their response to the comp plan was receiving those various presentations, as well as updated reports regarding the annexation process. And the mobility master plan response is P&Z will see traffic estimates for proposed developments as well as roadway safety analysis. And you'll see the recommendations over there on the side really have a lot to do with additional training for the commission, as well as allowing commission members to attend state conferences. So with that, do you have any questions for the Boards and Commissions annual report?
No, but I want to, again, thank you for. During our interview process earlier in the week, that was very good. Was that Monday, right? Yeah, very good, very well organized. And it seems like we're getting better candidates, more qualified candidates, people that are a little more bought in to what we're doing than in the past. So I think the interview process, although it's been massaged over time, I think it's working.
And I had the opportunity to present boards and commissions to Leadership Temple on Tuesday, and really drove home the application process and went through all the boards and commissions. And so hopefully we'll get some good applications from that group too in the next year.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good. Council, anything for Ms. Caraway? All right, next item, we'll just move right along, is discussion regarding amendments to the UDC. David?
So, we don't have a presentation for this item, but, essentially what I wanted to talk about today was kind of a continuation of where we left off last time, specifically talking about in RV parks. We've got 2 items on your agenda tonight. Item 5 and 6, I believe. Yeah, item 5 and item 6 on your agenda tonight that are for an RV park in this community. There was some specific language when those 2 items were tabled to bring them back either on the 5th or the 19th. So we're on the latter of those 2 dates, and they come back on that agenda tonight. What we heard, so a lot of what tonight's work session discussion item I want to get through is that what we heard was that staff had some work to do in bringing back kind of a regulation change that deals specifically with some items of concern with both of those 2 types of uses. And it seems to make sense that maybe you're not quite ready to take action on either of these 2 items. So if that's the direction we're wanting to go, then I would recommend that we postpone these items again, maybe with a little bit more leniency in the date to say, once we've addressed the larger issue, then we'll bring these back. So once we've had more discussion around both of these, it's going to take staff a little bit of time to dig in and really bring back some recommendations for what we heard was asked. But just kind of summarizing what I heard the last time was that we want to worry a little bit less about specifics like full-time residents or permanent residents in an RV park, and more along the lines of making sure that is a portable and able to be moved recreational vehicle. You know, we're not setting up a permanent shop with skirting and decks and those kinds of things. So we're worried a little bit less about that, the duration, and a little more about the look and feel and ability to get things moving. And then we are hearing some discussion around, again, trying to make sure that we can accomplish the aesthetic of the park, maybe without just completely limiting, saying anything older than 10 years or anything older than 15 years, trying to put a specific number on it, but really more trying to accomplish that goal of, having a good aesthetic without throwing a hard number on it, something that's manageable too for staff to be able to actually enforce, and not just a number that's on the books that we don't have a means to enforce.
Well, and also, I think a process for enforcement, right? To where, we know as council, once, we set a policy in place that policy is being followed, meaning that someone is going out there every once in a while and taking a peek to be sure that the policy is being followed. Just like we do with
Right.
permitting or anything else, right?
Right.
Send inspectors out to those places. And, I think it's appropriate that we do that also. Otherwise, your policy has no teeth.
And that would be retroactive, right? Even for. those
For
benefits.
compliance to be,
I think if we have a process to ensure compliance, then we can use that same process to ensure compliance. It's just what they're complying with may
We
be
can't
different.
add new
Right.
conditions.
We can't add new requirements to something that's already in existence, but we could have a process to be able to verify how they ensure compliance with what was in existence at the time that they originally built.
I don't think anybody wants to be heavy-handed here, but at the same time, I think, to build a community, even that, that type of community still needs some rules and regulations around it.
Right.
Reasonable. rules and
Yeah.
regulations.
For the applicants for these two cases told that we might not look at them.
Kelly, have you had conversations with
The case managers were reaching out, yes.
So they haven't flown in from out of town, or, I mean,
No, I believe we just advised them that, we have one here, but we advised the others that were out of town to be able to log in.
okay, good. We don't want to cause unnecessary hardship in any way.
So and I know I'm putting you on the spot,
Sure.
but before we get too far down this road, do you have any comments or anything you might like to add for us to consider?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. And just a couple of things, because I was able to listen to the last discussion, and it seemed like there was a lot of concern on the RV parks. And so there's just a couple of things that I'd like to bring up was, we're not an RV park. We're mobile or an established community, Blue Mountain Estates. And we're not looking for a new location to develop somewhere new. We're just
Right.
expanding. And as far as what the assistant city manager just brought up is a good point, but I want to let y'all know, if the city ever comes in, like, wants to enforce something, we love that. Just so you know, it gives us a little more backing if we have an issue with say a resident who doesn't fix their skirting, for example. I'd love to be able to say the city is on this and we're gonna, this is gonna happen, otherwise,
Right.
take the next step. So we're all for that. And, like you said, it's gotta be a protocol for that, and that's where it gets difficult, I'm sure. But on the UDC codes, there are two small things that we were asking, but most of them we try to go, and this is just our company model, we just try to go a little bit above and beyond on what the city requires. And we looked at all these things, and we worked with planning and development. They're great. They really give us a lot of information, but so the two things we were asking was a setback for the UDC code, from 50 to 30. The only, we're okay with 50. The only reason we asked for 30 is because the existing community is 30. So we just kind of wanted it to line up a little bit. So that's not a huge deal. The other one was, I think the biggest one on our end would be the double wides. Currently the way the code reads, it says 100% double wides. And we can get a few more homes in, not a lot more, but right now, the current percentage we have of double wides versus single wides, we have 12.26% on the double wide. So we have very few, and we want to double wides are you'll see in the thing. We want to make it look nice, matching sheds. Somebody brought up once toll 130 on the way to San Antonio. There's two beautiful communities. That was one of the inspirations on what we want here. Okay, and it was these nice double wides with, matching sheds. I've been driving that for 5 years. It looks great. So we're kind of looking for that now to make housing more affordable. And just to, with our current business plan, we want to be able to incorporate some single wides. But that being said, the lots that the current code says, it says, you can have 10 units per acre. We're just over half that, so we're not trying to crowd them in here. We don't want to push 8 or 9 units per acre. We're at 5.7. So we're trying to give them some space. We want them to look nice. We feel in the long run, the aesthetic would look a lot better because you don't want them all crowded up. Plus, you get into a fire hazard if you got them too close. And I just went off code stuff because that's what I understood we were talking about today. The recreation area, we're already at, even with the new development, we're above the required, and we're gonna add a little bit. So, you know, that's above and beyond. The parking spaces required in the code, it's, there'll be 4 units, you gotta have 1 extra parking space in the 2 that's required. So 31 was the number. We're more than double that. We're gonna go about 65 to 80, depending on how the plan lines up. And the last thing I thought was the widened entrance. We have 1 entrance now, and I believe you can have up to 300 units with the 1 entrance. We're gonna have under 300, about 297, but we still want to add second entrance because we feel it's important for first responders to be able to get in on the other side, up off of Shell Avenue. And we're gonna widen the current entrance, which is to code, but just to make it a little bit easier access on the park. We just think it'll look a lot nicer.
Excuse me, did you say second entrance on Shell also?
Yes, ma'am, that's
Okay,
what the
thank
proposed plan was. And originally, we started out with that because we were gonna go over 300.
Yeah.
But after the addition of the double wides, we felt our number dropped and we had a little more space. So we're gonna stay under 300. We still like the idea of that second entrance. You know, we don't want anybody crowded into that.
Right.
So you like it wide open. Like
And it helps with ingress and egress, the
Yes,
people
ma'am.
coming and going.
You would. So we're doing nice, there and get, another final plan. It's taking that around now, just trying to get those on. So still a lot of work to do, but you may get my mind pretty good.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, sir.
You appreciate it.
Changes that we're making. Does it apply to both concepts, one's an RV? Mobile home,
Right.
quite different.
It is 2 different chapters. We've talked about them concurrently because a lot of the, you know, not so much the permanent residency, but, you know, age of RV or age of mobile home. Those sometimes go hand in hand. We talk, you know, amenities that are contained. Those kind of conversations can kind of go hand in hand. It is, you know, it's 2 different sections. So they're 2 separate amendments. We've talked about them together because they have a lot of parallels. And we happen to have 2 cases that are one of each at the same time.
It's possible that one could come back before the other one comes back, always trying to keep them.
I think it's reasonable that one could probably make it back before another.
If there's something that needs to be addressed in advance of the entire UDC coming back, then we can bring that back individually. But otherwise, I think we're on for a next year, potential readoption of the updated UDC. Is that still correct?
And I think that we would hope to maybe move some of this ahead of the complete UEC as well. I do feel like just from my observation, we've been working towards the land lease community efforts a little bit longer. That's something that planning's been working kind of behind the scenes for a little while now. It's hard to say exactly how long. So we were a little further ahead probably on that one than we are on the RV park issue.
Oh, when y'all are looking at this one, I think is I don't want to be a mobile home community, but this particular place, what they currently have is a pretty good model for, I think, what we want if we're gonna have mobile home, right, communities in our areas in our community.
Bring Tim and put a chat up for you.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
This, Brian's message to us does not change what you're saying, does it?
I'm sorry, I didn't. see
His message
He's still
was
in compliance.
150 was the
Right.
the limit for a widened
Oh.
entrance, so.
They're gonna have 297.
Right.
Yeah, so it would still, what you're doing seems like it would still satisfy.
Yes.
Right, that's what I thought.
But it's just clarification on the number, where it's required.
It's fact check.
Okay, all right, very good. So while we're speaking, or discussing Unified Development Code, the items that's gonna require supermajority is also, relevant to that, to this conversation, so Pat or Brandon, you guys have anything you wanna say? You just roll the dice tonight.
No, really, just here to answer any questions that I have concerning our.
Okay. So the plan is, Brandon, you've got the land and
We're just
LDR
working
will
together to put the community
put units
together.
on it.
Yeah.
Would you like to have any additional discussion around what occurred at P and Z with that particular item, or do you feel comfortable?
I don't know what happened at P and Z. My understanding is that there's single family there now. And the piece of land that they're, working together on, abuts the industrial park. And so, we've always talked about a buffer area and what's appropriate for a buffer. And so really, to me, that's the issue tonight is, in spite of what the neighbors may say that do not own the land, is this an appropriate buffer?
It makes sense, I think, with transitional housing right next to the
Yeah.
loop.
Yep. And then we always sort of jokingly say, you want to control it. So. Or the realtor promised me that would never be built.
That's obviously the issue for the neighbors. If it's not, they don't care about buffer, so to speak. They just don't want anything. And somehow somebody's got to try to help them see that this is in some ways the best option. Or
Yeah.
possibly the best option.
Yeah, it could be, brought in and rezoned as a gas station.
Yes, or lots of tattoo parlors or something. I don't know, just, it
Well-
could be,
What's gonna happen tonight is if there are folks from the community, they're gonna say, that would be a great place for
for what?
a park.
Sure, it would.
You know?
And
Right next to the outer loop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm sure the landowner will, be happy to donate that land in the city.
Or at least have a.
Yeah,
but you resell it at a profit.
so, yeah, okay, we need to say anything. Everybody good? Everybody knows what's coming up? Do you want to give us some insight into what happened at P and Z?
I would.
Or
I would
somebody
lean on
does.
Kelly to give us a little bit of briefing about what happened.
Yeah, so that case, we did have several residents come to speak, about the concerns for the rezoning, portion of it. So, comp plan amendment didn't really receive, I mean, that was actually supported really well because it does take it from that business park to more, less intense use, looking at that residential. Neighborhood services, which is appropriate, that close to the loop, you'd have the neighborhood services opportunity and then also that residential, as you guys are saying, we look typically for transition from higher density residential back to what we see with these larger lots. So really it's making sense with, the direction of development that we've seen out there, but, really the feedback that we received was just, it's changed. It's not what we were told and, basically just not happy seeing
Yeah.
something that they didn't anticipate coming. That was the majority of the feedback.
I want rural living with the convenience of the city, but I don't want anybody near me.
And I
I
think
think
some
so.
of the concerns as well were, just traffic impacts. We do know that Cedar Creek is a narrow roadway. We have seen that just off of the loop. It's been widened and improved. Just looking at mechanisms to maybe explore that a little further in the future.
That's definitely one of the issues that people who have called me have discussed. And I have been totally inarticulate on responding to that part. But either increased industrial or increased residences is going to require some expansion, if hopefully, of the street.
Yeah, it's actually on your plans for 2045.
Right.
So I'll be 100 years old that year. I won't be doing.
And I'll be right there with you.
But we did discuss that at our DRC about maybe there might have to be some improvements to Cedar Creek, but the city engineers seem to think that that should be addressed at another time. We do have 2 entrances on Cedar Creek, and certainly there will be some increase, but I can assure you that as soon as that outer loop is completed, the Interstate 35 on the south, that highway is going to be very, very busy. And development, not only where we're doing, but across the street from where those folks are, that is going to take off whenever that, and I'm sure the industrial park is also looking at some of that land in that area also for, we're trying to get in there right now before that happens. Go ahead and establish a little multifamily community to.
How many units?
It'll be 84 units total, 42 duplexes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are oversizing our lots. We're making these 80-foot wide. There's more room in between the buildings. It'll be 2-bedroom, 2-bath. These are primarily going to be for folks that are just starting out in life, young couples. Ones I always pick on are the teachers and or young nurses, even our city employees like firemen and policemen. These will be good starter homes for those people that are making in the $50,000 to $60,000 category. And we will maintain all the lawns, so that'll all be taken care of for them. So we'll be good neighbors.
Okay. All right, very good.
How will there be, is there any issue, with selling off to investors who are then going to rent, and the concept of declining as investors buy and rent out?
Our basic concept is before we put the first shovel in the dirt, they're sold to investors that are doing this for retirement income. They'll be probably the same investors for the next 20 to 30 years.
Are investors telling you this and then
No, we're
renting?
telling investors this.
Okay.
We start the process and we sell everything before we even turn the first blade of dirt.
And how long is your track record for doing exactly this, Pat?
40 years.
Thank you.
All right.
Richard,
I have a comment since Pat mentioned me, so I'm gonna have to talk. So I think what we talked about at DRC was, that's a rural section out there, and if we add some ribbon curve to each side, they would come into conformance with our local rural section. So he's right. We think we can remedy it, make it come up to standards.
Talking about Cedar Creek.
Yes, sir.
We're intersect.
Already there some now, isn't it?
The intersection turns a corner there, so
Is that
20
ribbon
feet
curve?
or so. No, that's curved.
Yes. The transitioning,
They
Cedar
can
Creek ribbon curve past y'all's entrance, is that what we're talking about?
I think so.
Hey, Richard, some of us had a hard time understanding what you were saying. Did Mike clarify it? what you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
I might clarify that I know there are residences, those residents are outside the city limits. And I know you still give consideration to that, but they are outside the city. One of which I am, as well as my
Out,
children.
out.
But I'm getting closer.
And we're gonna give you about $100,000 to the city each year in property taxes and utility usage.
Is there any issue of the city winding up backed into a corner that there's its inability to expand the road because everything is built out?
It's pretty rural there
Yeah,
on
but
one side.
the minute the loop is finished, I realize that's not your issue, in terms of backing the city in to being able to expand, but we know that's happened in lots of places.
Sure.
That's a concern and from a planning standpoint.
And the loop section there is already complete.
Right.
That section, and as well as a really long left-hand turn
Right.
lane on the loop onto Cedar Creek Road.
Right.
So,
And Susan, we'll have an opportunity to evaluate right of way, when the plat comes through.
Yes. It's fine. I'm just anticipating and things I've heard.
sure.
Okay. All right, anything else on item 3? We're gonna, moving on, we'll receive departmental updates from people operations.
I want to be there.
We're there all day, every day. Thank you all for your time today. I'm not quite sure where it is. It's just a very beautiful place and I would like to be there.
I doubt.
Maybe one day I'll figure out where to go. So this is our team. We're still fully staffed. We have been for over a year now. Was our last vacancy. So this is our wonderful team that makes the magic happen. So here are some things we've done. I'm covering 2 quarters today, quarter 2 and quarter 3. So we continued having our management training, and that program is called Lead with a Purpose. We finalized the market study recommendations and submitted those as part of the budget process. We published and created a job description library, and that is now online for employees. Everyone in the city can access job descriptions from various departments. We had several enhancements in our HRIS system known as Dayforce. We've reviewed all of our employee benefit programs. We conducted RFPs that were needed, presented those recommendations to the council and the Employee Benefits Trust. We launched our learning management system in Dayforce, which is an online learning system. We had several engagement events. One of the big ones was the Storm Recovery Luncheon, Appreciation Luncheon that we had. We had an employee appreciation picnic, a family night at Lions Junction, Take Your Kids to Work Today, and of course our annual benefits, employee benefits fair. We configured and programmed our online open enrollment, and it's also now available on your phone, mobile. This was the first year ever for that. And I'm very excited to announce that this is the first year in my 6 years here, we had 100% completion of open enrollment. We did not have one employee who did not do their open enrollment on time. So we were very proud of that. A lot of phone calls and emails and getting people in there. We've coordinated and conducted several safety trainings over these last 2 quarters. We have had many civil service exams, mostly in police, but we did have some in fire. And then we had some recruitment events that we participated in out in the community. So when I first put this together, the top 4 things were things we were still working on, but they've now since been rolled out, so they have a green check mark. We have an org chart software that we're implementing that is going to lead to us having consistent org charts and easy to update org charts throughout the organization. We have gone through all the training with departments, and departments are now going through and verifying. So our system actually downloads all of their org chart for them, and they just go through and view it and make sure that everything looks good. We have developed and formalized a volunteer and internship program. So we're continuing to roll that out and marketing that a little more, but we have got that all set up. We have an employee recognition platform now, it's known as Awardco, where employees can log in and recognize their peers and managers can recognize employees. And we have created a form in the system that's being used for the police holiday payout. That's part of our meet and confer, one of the things that is new for us here. And this was the first year, and that process just completed here in the last couple of weeks. We also completed our employee policy manual updates. We do those every single year, and those have been completed for each year. We are working on developing a comprehensive employee safety program. A lot of those pieces are already in place, like our employee safety units in place and a lot of processes, but we're continuing to roll out additional components of that, including having on-site at each location, safety champions that do inspections and help with the reporting of any safety issues. We are in the future going to be implementing the general government market study. We have several engagement events coming up before the end of this year, including the Years of Service celebration and our employee Christmas party. And then we are currently working on enhancing our learning management library, so the content that's available for them. So here's some pictures of some of the events that we've had. This was the Storm Recovery Luncheon. It was held on June 14th. There were 505 people that attended that event. It was a very large event, very successful. Our Employee Appreciation Picnic was held back on May 4th. That had 173 attendees. The Family Fun Night at Lions Junction, that's always a popular one. We usually try to do that in the summertime when all the kids are out. There were 218 people that came to that one, employees and their families. The Bring Your Kids to Work Day was on July 24th. We had 106 attendees for that. The Benefit Fair this year had 146 employees that stopped by. Our Lead with a Purpose training program, again, that's our management training program that we kicked off back earlier in 24. So far, for the one in January, we had 26 supervisor level attendees, 18 management level, and then the senior leadership level, we had 15 attendees at that specific one.
Do they just volunteer to come, or do their managers ask them or recommend them? How does that happen?
It's a combination of both. Pretty much all supervisors, the managers and leaders are encouraging them to come.
Okay.
Some people, because of timing or whatever, they may have to come to the next one. It is an ongoing program. So if they miss one because they can't be there, they have the opportunity to sign up next time. And then we are tracking those in the learning management
Good.
system so that employees get the credit for attending, and we know who has and hasn't. So Crucial Conversations, that was a component of the management training program, another special session. That one was just held in August, and we had 25 supervisors, 13 managers, and 10 senior leadership. Again, that's another one that'll happen later as well. That's one that's really important for learning how to talk to employees about difficult topics and handle situations that are sometimes challenging for people in management roles.
Are the crucial conversations related to employment issues or personal issues that the employee is going through that the manager thinks maybe it's affecting their employment, or all of the above? Or
all of the above.
Okay.
So it's about talking about performance issues. If there's performance issues, if an employee is having personal issues at home, what are the resources that you as the manager have? Some of those issues we don't encourage managers to talk to people about, because it could be things that are HIPAA protected.
Yes.
Or FMLA type things that an employee can't be forced to talk about.
Sure.
But we give the managers the tools of what to do in those scenarios. If an employee is having an attendance issue, for example, and they address them and say, hey, you're not going to work on time. And then they start saying, well, the reason is I've got this medical condition and I've got this going on. You know, we're guiding them on how to handle that conversation, how to guide that employee to the next step of what they can do to help them. And then all of us work together to get to the bottom of it. So, safety trainings, in Q2 and Q3, this is, something we knew we started reporting on, how many that we've had. This just shows you all of the safety trainings that occurred. Hazard communication, was the one with the most. There were 11 trainings in total in this past, 2 quarters, and that just is, showing you what the attendees were by, training and by month. So this is the more on the safety training, just showing the instructors. We had some outside instructors, internal instructors. This is all reported into our department, into safety, and these are specific to safety type trainings. And we just track them and we keep track of what employees have attended, what type of safety training. Some of our KPIs here for recruiting, our applications that we've received in Q2 by month is at the top. So you'll see March was our biggest month. Those are the applications that were received in our system into Dayforce. At the bottom just shows you the top 4 positions that we received applications for. You'll see, for example, in March, the customer service rep received the most applications during that month and actually for that whole quarter. So this just gives you an idea of where we're seeing the most at. And then for Q3, June was our highest month for applications, and the police exam actually had the most candidates for that quarter. This is by source. So where do we find all the people who apply for our jobs? Indeed continued in Q2 to be our biggest resource where we get people's attention. So we had 1,600 people in Q2 that found our jobs that they applied for in total, found it on Indeed. That's number 1. Our city website is number 2. Getting to our city website, how do people hear about it? It's usually word of mouth, or they just know about the city. You know, that's the source they picked. And then how many people did we hire from each source? So the most people were hired from Indeed, meaning 23 of them that applied on Indeed. That's where they came from. 16 came from the city website during Q2. In Q3, again, Indeed was the top source. And then for the candidates and that one, the city website was actually number 1 for that quarter, where we actually selected candidates from in Q3.
Does that include in-house candidates that are moving departments?
This information, if it's like an in-house person, that would not be in here.
Not for new.
This is all
hires.
new people.
Right.
Yeah. Those we consider transfers.
Okay.
Like when they are internal. So new hires for Q2, just by month, what month was the most popular where we brought people on during that month? January for Q2 was number 1. And which department had the most? Parks had the most, followed by Public Works. And then the other departments, there were 7 other departments that had a mixture of 17 new hires during that quarter. In Q3, May was our biggest month. And as you can imagine, that's because we were opening all the pools and getting ready for summer. It was Parks with the number 1 top number of candidates brought in that month. Followed by Public Works at 19. And then 24 was just a mix of all departments. There were 8 departments in total. Civil service recruitment, hiring police officers and getting those positions filled has been a real priority for us and for the police department in my time here. And Chief is probably going to talk about this a little in his, but I think we are hitting a historical mark here very soon. So I'll let him share that great news. But this just shows you by quarter for those 2 quarters, how many people registered to take our civil service exam, how many people showed up, that's the exam takers, and then how many passed, just so you get an idea of that. This is something we look at a lot. There's a lot of discussion around this year round because you'll see the numbers and you're like, 61 people applied, but only 17 showed up. Why aren't they showing up? Well, a lot of people apply and then they forget about the day, they live out of town. There's so many different reasons, but we try to find out like what is the reason. And most of the time it's people forgot or they changed their mind and got a job somewhere else. So, you know, and then the number that passed, that's an important factor and something we often look at, like why is only half passing? Is the test too hard? What grade level is it written at? We look at that. We've changed the test a few different times since I've been here to try to get the best exam possible and making sure that it's not creating barriers for people to pass. And so that's something that we've researched and found that it's a pretty good exam that we have. It's not really a great barrier that we found that it's causing.
What grade level is it written at?
The highest one that we've ever had is written at 8th grade level. And the lowest we've had is a 6th grade level. I think the one we're on now is 8th grade, 8th grade level.
And we still have that small number of passing. That's very depressing.
It's about half. And if you call around to all the cities, like probably if I called all of them in Texas with civil service, you'd find that that's normal. That's like, you know, I've called all of them in our peer group, probably more than our peer group. And they say about half or less pass each time they take it. A lot of times it's they don't study. They've been out of high school too long. They don't remember how to do algebra. They don't remember how to do word programs. There's not like a lot of algebra in the math portion. It's mostly word programs and things that throw people off, even basic math though. But they just haven't done it in 10 or 15 years and don't remember it and they aren't studying. There are study guides that are available and we provide the information and links to all that.
Are the tests, is it stuff about policing or is it just general knowledge?
There may be a few word or questions that deal with like your burglary investigation. A lamp costs $3.15 for VCR. I'm dating myself. DVD player. Add the lamp and the DVD player. What's your total loss? So yes, but
So it's
not really. It's
still
not.
just, still just a math word problem. It's just.
I hope you can pass.
David made me take.
Again.
And you didn't even know you were taking a
Had
test.
no
right?
idea.
We all kind of like appeared and you're taking a test.
We took it as a leadership team one day, just to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that
General comprehension. was
Completely
they have to do when they're
Yeah.
grading.
How long does it normally
They
take
do general.
to take the exam?
Each section's time, it's about an hour.
Like what he was just saying, like.
And how many
adding up
sections,
the
John?
value of stolen
There's four.
goods.
Oh.
Like that.
Yes, did you pass?
How many miles are you going over?
Okay,
line
yeah.
color.
90,
Had the highest.
75.
You got the highest score?
Never
Oh,
thought.
you were,
Yeah.
you were absent that day because you had test anxiety.
Mr. Collins.
But not all.
The good news is we have a lot of people though that come to that first one and they fail it. And if they come back the second time, I'd say about 75% pass it the second time. Now I do have some that come 3 or 4 times and just keep failing it. But even over at the police department, they have offered tutoring, having them come in so that they can learn about the areas where they failed. We have them contact our office and we let them know you failed in math. Here's some things you can go and do. But a lot of them will come back and they'll pass the next time. So then that's where the really hard part comes in because all the other stuff like the background checks and all the next steps, they sometimes fall out. So another thing we track is how many of our new hires are completing their benefit enrollment. And you can see that here for Q2. In February, 100%, that's our goal always, is to try to get 100% of people to do it. We still do have some employees that don't complete it. I could go to their house and knock on their door and they still won't answer the door. But we call them, we email them, we do as much as we can to try to get them to enroll. Most of the time, it's because they have benefits with their spouse or what have you, and they just don't feel that they need them, so they don't do it. But there are some benefits that the city does provide at no cost, such as life insurance and such that they need to enroll in so we can gather their beneficiary data, things like that. The new hire orientation, our policy is employees, full-time employees must complete it within 60 days. So we do track to make sure that they're all completing it within time. So that's what's in the top right. And then the bottom right just tells them all of their new hire tasks, which includes their direct deposit form and their W-2 and acknowledgement of policies and all of that, what percentage of those people are completing those timely. And then this is the view of Q3, same data. So these are the yellow, previously known as PAFs. Now they're the position compensation change forms. They're electronic. How many are processed each month? One of these comes through for any kind of personnel action that happens. A person promoting, demoting, hiring, resigning, going out on FMLA, coming back from FMLA, lots of different reasons. But in quarter two, we processed 384, and in quarter three, we processed 300. Our turnover percent, so for quarter two, 37% of our people on the left because the number one reason is they left was due to retirement. This is based on the survey that they fill out when they leave. They have to remember it's only as good as how many people you get to fill out the survey. So 10 people filled out the survey, and out of the 10, 37% stated they were leaving because they were retiring, number one reason. On the right is our monthly turnover rate. So our highest month was January with 1.6%. The bottom tells you the areas where most of the people left. And you can see for January, the food and beverage area, that was over in the parks area. That's where we had the highest turnover. For the next month in February, it was over at the indoor pool. So that gives you just an idea of what that data is showing us. We had 50 employees total who left during quarter two.
Does that turnover include when seasonal employees, when that employment ends?
Yeah, it includes all employee turnover.
So does that skew it any?
It has to.
It will show you, yeah, because it'll show you that they left, but it counts in like the overall organizational turnover. So it depends on what you consider like skewing it, but it's really showing the picture of, the organization.
Yeah, but it has to be skewed in terms of.
Because it's ending the seasonal.
Exactly, they can't continue.
Yeah, well, those food and beverage and Salmon's indoor, though, those are the full-time people that are leaving those positions.
So
Those are
that's not seasonal.
So it's not the seasonal, like if you're meaning like the ones we hire for the summer
Lifeguards.
jobs for lifeguards, you wouldn't see those in there.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, good.
No. And then here, this is quarter three. And this shows you the number one reason people said they were leaving. There were 5 people who responded. Dissatisfaction with management was our number one reason. And number 2, tied with work environment. And then there were 71 people who left.
Very small.
Number of respondents. We've created an offboarding process in Dayforce that we're still trying to get everyone to do as they're leaving. But employees, it's not like a mandatory thing that the system doesn't make them do it. We tell them they need to do it. It's part of their process to leave. We can't legally hold their paycheck or anything up and say, we're not going to pay you if you don't do it. You're not allowed to do that, but we do try to encourage them to do that. That's it.
That's
Any
a
other
pretty picture
questions?
too.
Yeah, another beautiful beach.
Very beautiful.
I think one thing that might be interesting to see would be because you talked about hiring, right number of people hired. I'd be interested to see net hiring by quarter.
See what?
If you had 50 new hires and 45 left, your net is 5.
Like how many people left and how many people started
Right.
during the same month.
Right.
Yeah.
And even by department. I don't know. I like stuff like that. Nobody else may care.
You get the number of days.
You get that
vacancy too.
Mm-hmm.
When the time a person leaves, so it's filled.
The only issue with the number of days vacancy is the positions, how they're set up in the system. They don't have true position control. So like you'll have 3 utility techs. Utility tech number 1 doesn't have a specific position number. They're all utility techs with a certain number of authorizations. So you might have a utility tech position that's open for 120 days, but you filled 2 of them, but they don't have unique. Does that make sense? Like tracking down, when was that one vacant? When was the next one vacant? Because it's an authorization. So we
can do FIFO.
Yeah, first in, first out. Yeah.
Or first out, first in.
Yeah. It is something we're working on with payroll, creating the true position counts.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Glad to see everybody does their open enrollment. I've got that phone call.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Thank you, you tornado.
Yes, I got one.
Did I get one to everyone here today?
Yeah, fire one.
I didn't get a tornado.
Oh.
Yeah, I've got the fire.
I said this.
Oh, yeah, we got it.
I'm saying you put some blue outline in it.
She's not bad.
Yeah, it's
Hey, you come back. No, I got a tornado fire one.
Oh,
Thank
that one
you.
doesn't count.
They see.
They're cooking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the
Probably shopping right now.
Popsicles and whatnot.
Anyone want to
I got a fire.
Thank you.
You're very, very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to be in front of you. We'll dive right in. It all begins with our mission statement. I'm going to tell you numbers that we've recently hired, which is really some good news from them.
Mhm.
And during the application process, so I would tell you that test is not too hard. That test is absolutely the appropriate test we ought to be given. It says more about other parts of the system in my mind than it does about the entrance in police work. It all begins with our mission statement: protecting, serving, and working in partnership with our community. We're going to produce a soft ground, integrity, and honor. Where it begins for us. It's all built on relationships, trust, and communication. I'm going to dive right in. For some reason Liz wants me to rush through this. She was begging me in the corner. Please. I don't have any songs or burger diners or stuff like that, but I'm trying to do better. So this is all from August, right? So the annualized data, not the fiscal year data. This is the annualized data. This is a reminder. This will show you that at the end of August, we had a number of vacancies on the sworn side. And I'm really just going to focus on the sworn side. For us, the non-sworn positions are not the ones we truly struggle to fill in the past 5 years. So over the past 5 years, we faced numerous challenges in the country and the state, really around the world. It's not isolated to Texas or just the United States. It's a worldwide phenomenon that occurred where folks left the industry at a much faster rate than we could rebuild the industry. I'm pleased to report that that anomaly has recently changed in the city of Temple. And as of today, I have 3 vacancies for sworn police officers. We could not have done without y'all's support. Thank you so very much. Now, the good news of that is I've only got 3 vacancies. Bad news is 13 of the 16, it's gonna take me a year to get a train.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've got 6 months of the.
Yeah, 150,000 apiece. All right, isn't that what it takes?
Oh, if you averaged it out,
Yeah.
salary and perhaps, I haven't done that math in a while. But really exciting for us. We've got some new recruiters. We actually pulled another one to add a second one to there. They're making a huge difference. If you see Corporal Robert Johnson and Officer Nicholas Tier, they're the ones who've been working on it. We win and lose the recruiting game with that personal contact and personal connection with folks. They've done a phenomenal job. Really proud of the work they've done.
This time last year, where were you sitting? Just guessing.
25, 30 down.
That's great.
He actually presented a plan to me, and his goal was to be fully staffed by October of next year.
Oh, he beat it.
He beat it by
Way
a year.
beat it.
Absolutely.
And who is he?
Corporal Robert Johnson.
That's, you're saying the corporal is the one that was his plan.
Yep, that was his
Got it.
plan. And it was a good plan.
I know that lots goes into that, but what are 2 or 3 real difference makers, would you say?
Constant communication. That's it.
With the applicants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep them on the hook, keep talking to them, keep encouraging them, keep them in the process. And that's a real challenge, even from HR's perspective. That's a real challenge to try and keep constant flow of information. Our process is pretty lengthy. When you get through the test, and if you pass the test that day, you're gonna take a row test. That's a 2,000-meter row right then and there. And if you don't pass it, thank you, come back and try again. And then the personal history statement, the background pieces, the components, the polygraph examination, a board. they finally all, if they make it through all that, they sit in front of me and one of my patrol lieutenants. And we interview the applicants to make sure it's the right fit. And this last time, because I did 16 interviews in the month of September already. We kept hearing from folks was, I was in the Waco process until I met you all and did my research on you. I'm coming here. I want to work here.
Nice.
I connected with the mission statement. They connected with our purpose. They connected with our videos that we put out. They're connecting with the message. So we're permeating the noise in the industry, which is pretty loud most of the time. I just hired a second one from Roswell, New Mexico, one from NYPD, a corrections officer from Massachusetts, and one from Killeen. So we were getting lateral applicants at the same time. We were getting folks with no experience. Really, really promising. What we're doing is working.
And the lateral applicant, what's the time till they get? on the
6
road?
months, roughly, about 6 months.
How's their seniority? Used to be nothing, right? No,
They don't get seniority for coming.
so
They're coming in at whatever.
they're coming and getting.
Where they come in at. Now I can, we have a meet and confer, I can have multiple lists. So I can take the laterals, move them to the top of that, and then everybody just generally falls in.
The Roswell person came because of the first Roswell person is friendly with the second Roswell.
Yeah, they're really good friends.
Yeah, I remember you telling us that the first Roswell said they were bringing a friend.
A Massachusetts gentleman is friends with one of our officers. During the interview process, I said, why are you coming to town? He lived in Massachusetts your whole life. Because I came down here and visited my friend. My friend seems really, really happy, loves what he's doing, loves you, loves when he's pointing at me.
Yeah,
I want to come work here.
bringing a family or just single?
Just himself, right?
Where in Massachusetts?
Oh.
It's okay.
I don't know. 16 interviews.
So, yeah, why would you know
Sure.
that? Sorry.
No, you're good. But what you're seeing is folks are drawn to the purpose of what we're doing. So that's really, really encouraging. From a chief executive standpoint, it's incredibly encouraging.
And would you be able to get those laterals without needing to confer?
Yeah, probably. Okay. I mean, it helps incentivize. I think this officer, and so let's differentiate. Laterals that come from out of state, they have a lot to probably gain. It's hard to get laterals from in-state because you give up your seniority when you come to a new place,
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
So if I've got 4 years on the job, I probably can pick my schedule for the most part when I'm working. And when you come here new, you don't have that.
Or if you have any rank in your own department, you lose that.
Yeah, I've hired a corporal from one of the counties next to us as well, who came over because he's seen how well his brother is being treated and loves working here, and he wanted to come over. It's really exciting. Okay, so those numbers are all out of date by now, but super excited to tell you we only have 3 openings. Response time for August and year to date, we've shaved some time off our response time. On average response time, dispatch still has the same personnel issues and challenges. I think the last number I heard was there's still 17 dispatchers down. You can imagine trying to run a 24/7 communication center, Killeen, Temple, Bell County, all those agencies, pretty challenging work, but they stay pretty consistent. Computer aided dispatch. If you remember last year at this time, calls for service were way up. We were up about 3,000 calls for service. Pleased to report self-initiated activity is way up. Calls for service are down slightly. Total events were really about, say, in the same ballpark, about a 1% change. Arrests, they're up in every category. Misdemeanors, felony, Class C, federal charges are up by about 800. And I use this to balance out. I think I've shared this with you before, but when I'm managing via data, and you get inputs, certain inputs, and you got to see outputs as well. So We often get focused on crime statistics, which we're gonna spend some time to talk about it. But this is on the back end, right? So if your organization is seeing an increase in incidents, are there arrests going up or not? You can see these arrests are up fairly significantly.
Is that hand in hand with the increase in number of officers? No, because that's recent. Yeah, got it.
Now, this is working,
Right.
doing
Yes.
more with less.
Yes.
Is really what we've been doing. And they've done a remarkable job. There's very few complaints about working over, holding over, coming in early, because that's what we've had to do for 4.5 years.
Yes.
But I will tell you, after 4.5 years, you want to be able to try and catch your breath, and we're getting to that point. So Department of Traffic Enforcement, Tracy, I'm gonna need you to pay attention.
I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm always listening.
Citations are up 25%, citation charges up 26%. Warnings are still up consistently. We teach discernment, discretion to our officers. Traffic stops are up 32%. DWI arrests up 14. Accidents are slightly down. Accident exchanges are down. Sadly, fatality accidents are up by 2 at this point this year. So I want to prepare you all, and some of you know this already because we've had conversations. You may see an increase in our crime reporting for 2024. I will take part of the responsibility for that. I recently changed our policy, and recently is in March, I changed this policy. We had a policy in place that said for class A and B misdemeanors that are reported, if there's no information at that time that would lead to the arrest or identity of a suspect, no case number was needed. You just put it into the call notes. I talked with a number of citizens that were pretty frustrated by that. I don't think that's the right thing to do for our customers. Crimes reported, just because we can't identify the suspect at that time, that's not a reason not to take the report. That doesn't mean the crime didn't occur. It just means we don't have it figured out yet, and we may never figure it out. So for A and B misdemeanors, they're now required to take a report, which means you're going to see some increase in our numbers, some increased reporting. You know, recently that was a big deal between some other local politicians.
Colleen?
Yeah, might have been. And this is done for 3 reasons, really. And there's actually a 4th one, if I can recall it, to improve customer service. Like if I called you and said my weed eater was stolen out of my front yard, and you're like, well, you got a suspect? Well, no, not my job. That's your job. Okay, we're just going to not take a case number. We'll give you an event number. I don't think that's right. And that policy was in place long before I got here. To report crime and crime trends in the city of Temple more accurately, to enable our highly talented, incredible crime analysis unit to easily identify and track trends, crimes, and patterns of criminal activity. So you're going to see some increase in our numbers, as well as some of the other issues.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily an increase in crime. It's just a change in how your numbers are designated.
Correct. But
Which
we
is-
don't have numbers from prior years.
I got it. You can't make the comparison, but
Right.
we need to understand that.
So I would tell you, 2024 will really be kind of a reset, a baseline year for us. And
Yes.
it's still missing a few months. But it'll be a baseline year for us.
Chief, do you think that, now that a report is actually being taken on the weed eater or whatever, do you think that's going to lead to an increase in solved crime?
Will eventually. I don't have the staff to follow up on all those all the time.
Yeah,
We
right,
prioritize cases.
Right.
If you commit a person's crime, that's where our attention's going
Right.
on you. We're coming after you. And then the more significant property crimes. And yes, it will eventually. We'll be able to track and identify those crime, and some of it's via systems that we have. Other will be requests that I make for a misdemeanor, this unit, and they're gonna focus on this. So, yes, sir, it will eventually. So let's walk through here and let's just talk about a few changes the legislators made. So many times, I'll just take a death investigation case. It's just a death investigation, which we get sent out on those all week long, every day of the week. With the legislative changes that they've recently made targeting fentanyl, those fentanyl deaths will now be classified as a homicide.
Oh.
The challenge we face is we may not know for 3 months because it takes, we'll get a preliminary autopsy report back just as questionable, or, second one takes about 6 to 8 weeks, and then the toxicology won't come back for 3 months. So These numbers may change over the years, and they may change one way or the other. They'll never go down, but they may go up, just so you know. So we had 6 homicides or murders last year. This year we had 3 at this time last year. Negligent manslaughter, I was explaining to folks, so 2 of those are a traffic accident fatality, right? So again, we may go out to a traffic accident fatality and the investigation shows that it's now gonna be presented to the district attorney as a criminally negligent homicide. And we won't know until the DA or the grand jury views it and says, yes. So those numbers can change as well. Justifiable homicide, the one that's on there is the officer involved shooting from January. You see rape reports up by 4 reports. If you'll remember, they made a change in the coding, so we have more items going into that bucket. Sodomy down, sexual assault with an object down, fondling cases, a few more cases. Ag assault, we're up by 1 case. But when you think about persons crimes, I think everybody tends to focus on how the UCR data used to be, you know, rape, robbery, murder, or rape, robbery, and murder. Those were the big one, and aggravated assault. Well, that is not what's driving this entire category. I'll direct you to simple assaults. Last year at this time, we had 594 of those. This year, we have 713. In relative terms, I would much rather see this increase in simple assaults than some of these other categories.
Sure.
Lots of factors for, and you have to know when you talk about agency to agency comparisons, which I know we've talked about in here. It's a deeper dive than just what's been reported out. You got to know what they're taking reports on and how they're taking reports. So if that comes up again, I'm happy to help clarify some things.
I was at a meeting with him yesterday and he didn't have anything to say.
Well, I had a conversation with their chief. Anyway, intimidation cases, kidnapping, abduction, and I want to clarify this one as well. It also includes criminal restraint, domestic violence incidents. We have not had 17 kidnappings. We had 1 non-parental abduction this year. Incest, none. Statutory rape, none. Human trafficking, that's just by 5. I think I say this every time. Human trafficking is a complicated legislative statute that can be as simple as the exchange of sex for drugs. That falls into that realm. Mm-hmm. And then involuntary servitude.
Chief, if a rape involves sodomy and or sexual assault with an object,
it's the highest classification of crime that is classified.
Which would that be?
Rape.
Rape? So there's no duplication there.
Should not be.
Okay.
Crimes against society. This is really a measurement of predominantly proactive policing efforts. And I don't like that these numbers get counted against us because we're making almost 100 more drug and narcotics violations, 25 more drug equipment violations, and a few more pornography, obscene material cases. No prostitution, no gambling. Weapons cases are up just slightly and animal cruelty is down. But these all 3 of these categories get merged into Part A crimes. So, but this is also one that tells me how hard our men and women are working out there. Crimes against property. So you might remember under UCR, robbery used to be in the persons category. It's not anymore. It's in the property category. And the reason it's there is because it's really a crime of stealing somebody's property by force. Down by 19% for 6 cases. Extortion, blackmail, or I'm sorry, arson cases are the same. No blackmails. Burglaries, you're going to see more of these reports. Our burglary to vehicle reports were off the chain this summer, as you might imagine. Does anybody recall what the legislators mandated on us last legislative session? Get rid of curfew. Take a tool out of the toolbox. That's also another reason why I want to accurately record these, to have an argument and say, you gotta give us that tool back. I think it was a deterrent. And it had helped us. Larceny and theft offenses, you can see those are up. Motor vehicle theft. We're still dealing with Kias and Hyundais. If you haven't caught it, 10 times. 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 10 they're under class action lawsuits by multiple states. Insurance companies are dropping some of their folks that own those things. Counterfeiting and forgery is up. Fraud offenses are right even. Embezzlement's up. Anybody think why your fraud offenses might be static, but your counterfeiting, forgery, or embezzlement cases might be up? I think it's just the state of the economy, driving folks to make perhaps poor decisions. Destruction of property cases are up, just a few cases. And then bribery, none.
Keith, on the motor vehicle, didn't y'all give out a bunch of the bat things for the?
We gave out about 100, I think. Some we got donated, some we spent some money on. And the folks, the community members that came in and got them were really very appreciative. And I hear from some of them still, they're like, I still put that thing on every night because it's just another thing you got to do, right? It was really positive.
But at least they have something to put it onto.
Yes. They were so bold is that we found a note in one of them to us. And they signed it the Kia boys.
Kia boys.
A note, or you recovered the car.
We recovered a stolen auto and they were like, love you, please, Kia boys. So I can't remember exactly what it said. These are your totals. You can see crimes against person, up a little bit, crimes against society up, crimes against property up, total, we're up. And part of that's on me.
What's crimes against society?
Those ones, drugs and narcotics.
Oh, okay.
Pornography, obscene material, gambling, prostitution.
Yes.
Those types of cases. And as I stated before, this is really the proactive piece. I mean, this is what comes out of traffic stops.
Yes.
Felony case disposition, this is another one that I use to balance the workload and the work that we're doing. But this time last year, we presented 178 cases. We presented almost 500 cases to the district attorney's office this year. Cases accepted. Last year, we got 64 accepted. This year, we got 358.
Wow.
Different DA?
Yeah.
Say that again, what?
Different DA
Yeah,
you're dealing with?
yeah, not yet.
What do you think did that?
I think it was our election year. And I hope that's wrong, and I hope we sustain this, because this is absolutely what we've got to be doing. Cases declined last year, 52. This year we had 112, but you can see that the difference in the numbers, it all makes sense to me. Cases deferred, we began tracking that this year. So we don't have any comparisons from last year. Next year we will. My 90, still about a 90% satisfaction. We've had over close to 3,000 survey return since October of last year, 90% positive. This is what they're saying on the specific questions. 92% positive view of the agency, 92% treated with respect, 92% felt they were treated fairly, 89% felt they were listened to. And that's going to surprise you. Some folks don't like the answers we tell. 93% understood what they were told, and 87% had their questions answered. Theft is their primary concern. Traffic offenses and crashes. Let me touch base on that, since I often get traffic complaints through you all. What we've done is we're in the development processes of really a traffic control safety plan. What we're going to do is we keep a list of all the various complaints that come in, and I only have 2 traffic officers right now. We're going to start with data collection. It's going to last a week long, so we're not going to do any enforcement. We're just going to put some monitors out there, track speeds, because we get a lot of complaints that come in. They're just one person complaining about using my road as a highway.
I know
That was
who,
my guy.
I know who that was.
That was my guy.
That was my guy. I sent that to you.
What I will try to do is, once we get the data back and we've made a decision, I'll try and get back with you just to pass on the information. Hickory, we're gonna do.
Yes.
Yours, we're not gonna do. Because
Sorry.
the data doesn't justify it. And we can track it by hour of the day of the week, all those kinds of things. And we measure it at the 85th percentile. And so that's the part that we're trying to work out what's gonna be our cutoff for doing those things. And some of those roads, you know, get people going 4 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. I got other priorities
Bigger.
that we're gonna try and work through, but we'll have a defined plan. We'll probably post it on the website. We'll probably bring you some information so that you all are passing on to you, so you're
How
all aware.
about Fifth Street Bridge over the loop and that whole in front of Temple College, that whole area?
Is this a new one you're adding to my list?
Yeah.
Okay, shoot me an email.
I'll shoot you. Actually, start at 93 and go to Avenue U.
Yeah, I mean, it's all.
Yes, it is, but the speeding there is really bad.
I couldn't tell you, our list is probably 35 locations.
I think it's speeding's very bad everywhere.
Yeah, it's getting, and I think it's getting worse.
People thought, the guy screamed at me the other day for doing 28 and a 30 and he was running after me screaming about.
Yeah, I mean,
Traffic
a
break.
lot of times it's just perception. So traffic offenses and crashes, 13% of our folks, they don't have any safety concerns. Drug use and sales, 12%, homelessness, gun violence, physical attacks, quality of life, gang activity is the lowest. I think they're concerned about. We've taken a lot of these players off the board. In fact, we have sentencing coming up for 3 more of them. The rest of them, most of them that were tried got a hard 50 or life in prison. And we've got 3 more coming up soon.
That means no parole.
No parole.
How do you think they're backfilling those? Are
It
they?
does create a vacuum. I mean, any organization, when the leader's taken out or the leadership, it creates a vacuum in the organization. We felt some of that last year.
For a little while.
For a little bit. We've taken some of them off the board too. And so we have not had the drive-bys or the shoot 'em ups that we had last year. And it's because we're taking them off the board. Increased patrol visibility is their number one. I'm telling them I'm trying. Increased community engagement, staffing, increased information sharing, increased officer training, and then six respondents want us to decrease patrol car visibility. I suspect it's because they might be
Speeding.
no,
Oh.
not
drug
speeding. I
use.
think it might be because of that. And when we drive by their place, we need to do
Yes.
commerce.
Being fully staffed should help with that.
It's gonna help. But I talk to people all the time, they're like, I can't drive anywhere. And even the increased communication, they're like, you guys are everywhere you do a lot, so.
You know what
Again,
the Hickory Street guy's response to me was about, we're doing what we can and we're addressing it? Take the damn statues down off of 35 and put that money to the poor.
Cause they're totally connected, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Melt them down and
Sell
sell.
them down, sell the metal and hire police.
Of course, they give us a keyword search bubble, that's always interesting to look at. Previous 90 days, Public Safety Training Center, if you haven't been out to Fire Station 8, that's going well. We're gonna launch Niche, our new records management system, January 14th, I believe. Animal shelter expansion, I put that back up there because we're getting ready to replace the remaining kennels that we did not replace, the first go around. Community outreach events, preparing for 25 budget, relationships, trust and communication, community outreach events. How can you help me? We continue to fight just, I don't even know if it's educating the public at this point. I think it's more an act of defiance. Just don't leave your car running in front of a convenience store. That's a bad idea. Remove your valuables, remove your guns, lock your cars, stay vigilant, see something, say something. You can always call us, turn your porch lights on. Crooks don't like to be seen. Here's 5 upcoming events. At the Children's Advocacy Center event at the Mayborn Center, National Night Out's coming on October 1st. National Coffee with a Cop is the next day. The 5th, actually on the 4th, we have the Community Summit. On the 5th is a tractor show event, which we help a little bit. November 2nd, some of the kiddo car event. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Council, anything? Things are trending
We
in the right
interrupted
way.
you 100 times asking you questions.
Okay.
Can't do now.
Oh, you can ask whatever.
Don't have more questions.
I just want to pass on how appreciative I am of you, for all your support for the past 4.5 years. It's been amazing, phenomenal. Tracy's group's been fantastic. We just have a really good staff. We have elected officials, and I'm grateful to be able to work here. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys make it easier, I'll tell you that. Very good. All right, next item. I already moved on to my agenda. Is executive session, I believe. Yep. So, we'll enter to an executive session. Currently, it is, 17 minutes after 4. And, now the city will receive an update, the council will receive an update from the city attorney regarding ongoing litigation. The council will now enter into executive session to seek the advice of its attorney on pending or contemplated litigation pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, and will conduct a private consultation with its attorney on a matter in which the city, was the duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct. The state bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Texas local government code